Brazil is one of the largest countries in the world. It's known for its incredible biodiversity. There's the Amazon rainforest in the north. The east is dominated by lagoons and stunning beaches. The legendary Copacabana and Sugarloaf Mountain. And in the south, the Pampas. For the past 4 years, the Brazilian economy has been booming. Education is improving and a new middle class is emerging. But Brazil is plagued by transportation problems. The 2014 FIFA World Cup in Brazil is just around the corner. But what's the best way for fans to get to and from the matches? Can Brazil overcome its problems in time? A company in the German city of Stuttgart hopes to alleviate Brazil's traffic chaos. The organization Cities for Mobility is based here. Patrick Dauda coordinates mobility projects across the globe.
The fact that Germany was the host nation of the 2006 World Cup is of interest to many members of the network, particularly those from Brazil, because we can pass on our experiences to the host cities.
Manaus was built in the middle of the jungle and is only accessible by boat or plane. The city's iconic Amazon Theater is a relic from its glorious past. Today, Manaus has grown to encompass 1.8 million inhabitants, but the city can't boast a world-class football stadium. That's set to change. The German architectural firm Gerken Mark und Partner has been given the job of designing a new stadium here. They're specialists in the field and built stadiums for the World Cups in Germany and South Africa. Burkhard Pick lived in South Africa for several years. Now he's in Manaus and responsible for the new Arena da Amazonia.
This was once the site of an old stadium. All the old steel girders and seats were painstakingly removed and reused elsewhere. It's all very innovative, so a lot of attention has been paid to the environment, even with all the building waste. The earth is decontaminated over there and then reused here.
Conditions in the jungle are extreme. It's hot, it's humid, and heavy rains can strike without warning. The stadium has to be built quickly. The architects found inspiration for its design from the structures, colors, and forms in the Amazon rainforest.
With the overall design, the image that everyone will soon be seeing on television during the World Cup, and which will also be a landmark, we've tried to use structures from nature as a model, biological structures. There's nothing like this net, the steel roofing frame, in the whole world.
Manaus wants to be known as a green city. Authorities want to reduce the environmental impact of the stadium, so material will be sourced from nearby, waste will be recycled, and rainwater collected. But even transporting the material presents a challenge.
In the Amazon, most of the transportation is by water. I think 80% of the population is connected to the city by the waterways. In other words, there are no major roads here. Logistically, that means we'll have to bring all of the large construction components in by water.
Manaus's roads will be extended by the time the World Cup kicks off. But the Amazon and its tributaries are still the region's greatest asset. The people of Amazonia rely on the river for food and water. But if they fall ill, they have no means to cross the expanses of water to receive treatment. Then the river can become an obstacle. To overcome this, authorities have devised an elaborate system of small ambulance boats known as ambulancias. There are 9 of these docks located along the length of the Rio Negro. In the event of a medical emergency, the boats can pick up the patient and take them for treatment. Afterward, they're transferred to smaller boats and taken home. For the river people, it's often the only way they can get medical help. Osvaldo Chagas was taken to hospital with heart problems.
If I had taken the ferry, it would have been 9 or 10 hours until I was treated. With this ambulance, you only need between 2 and 2.5 hours.
His condition took a turn for the worse. The pain in his chest returned, but luckily a doctor and nurse are always on board. Today, Ribera Marcio is doing the rounds.
I want to help people when they're in need. I chose emergency medicine because those are the moments in which the patient is most fragile. It's this thin line between life and death. And I think I can offer every single person the correct treatment at that moment.
Back in Stuttgart, Patrick Dauda and his colleagues are giving the delegation from Brazil a guided tour of the city's traffic management center. Ralph Thomas is in charge here.
You can see a traffic jam on this display. We have a 3-stage display denoted by different colors. Red means there's a traffic jam, as you can see here on the bridge. Yellow means there's heavy traffic, and green means the traffic is flowing freely. Here we have the traffic monitoring camera on the bridge.
Stuttgart has valuable experience, and everyone is keen to pass on their knowledge.
It's possible to implement this system in Brazil too. That means immediately establishing a traffic management center. Maybe not on the same scale as in Stuttgart, but a scaled-down version. And you can manage the private and public transport in one management center.
The city of Porto Alegre will be the site of a new traffic management center like the one in Stuttgart. It'll be the first of its kind in the country. Patrick Dauda is offering advice to Carla Meinecke, the center's director. She was trained in Stuttgart for a month and is already putting her training into practice. There are 41 cameras located throughout the city to monitor traffic. And the city's taxis help too. They've been fitted with GPS devices to collect data on traffic conditions.
We've also fitted infrared beams so we can carry out traffic counts and identify possible variations that would require a change in the timing of the traffic lights. And what is different here in comparison to all other capital cities is that 92% of traffic lights are controlled from this room. That's nearly 100%. Everything can be controlled from here.
Patrick Dauda is impressed.
They also want the police to be here with them, which isn't yet the case. If they were, they would be able to react better and even quicker to certain situations. The way they're working here seems very well thought out and very professional.
But the city also faces another challenge. Carrozas are a common sight on the streets of Porto Alegre. They are small, horse-drawn farm carts used by slum dwellers to transport trash. Their drivers not only present a danger to other road users, but also to themselves. But the inhabitants of the slums live off the money that the trash provides. Many have no other choice. This is the Villa Chocolato. Most of the people in this slum also live off trash collecting. Authorities are trying to help. They deliver trash to the slums to keep the carrozas off the streets. And they're also building a hall where it can be recycled. Terezinha da Silva is 33 years old. She's worked here for 13 years, but also used to collect trash.
When we used to work on the streets, we earned a lot less. That was because of the price. as the quality wasn't very good, and we didn't separate the trash very well. Normally you separate the trash quickly and then sell it on. But here we separate it properly, and that helps us to get a better price, so now we earn more. Things have improved a lot, and I hope the future will be even better after we start to use the new hall.
To give the slum dwellers a new perspective, authorities have built a new housing complex for them, and it'll soon be ready to move in. Vanja Gonçalves is a UNESCO ambassador. She's a familiar face in the slums, and people here trust her.
With a resettlement scheme like this, and it happens across the world wherever there is poverty, people are moved from one place to another. For me, it's a big mistake. When the people get there, how can they survive? What can they do? Often they return to the streets and carry on living as before. A house on its own doesn't solve the problem. The solution comes when these people change their lives so they can survive in their new surroundings.
Resettlement only makes sense if people know how to cope in their new surroundings. Even the most basic skills are important.
Here you can see a communal toilet in Vila Chocolatao. There are others, but the inhabitants can learn how to use a toilet here. It's important because when they move into their new apartments, they have to know how to use a toilet properly. Today, they still do their business in a bag and then throw it away.
The toilets are a way of teaching the inhabitants of the Vila Chocolatao the basics of hygiene. Basic but indispensable knowledge for their new life in better surroundings. This is Rio de Janeiro's famous mountainous cityscape. Down below, the city's affluent population lives and works. Above them, the slums. The slums in Rio de Janeiro are built on the mountains. For decades, the people living here have been forced to make the arduous journey up and down the mountainside. 75-year-old Iracema Gonçalves is one of them.
We need about an hour to get down to the bottom, fill up the water container, and then make our way up again. I lived here. My hut was here. Yes, it took a while. Then, by the time you had recovered, you had to set off again to fill up another 12-liter container. Sometimes there was no water, and we had to look for some. Back then, everything was very difficult. But gradually, things have improved.
Today, the area is changing in ways she could never have imagined. A cable car is being built to ferry people directly to the metro or downtown Rio. Icaras Moreno is overseeing the project. He's the president of the state-owned company responsible for public works.
You can get about more quickly. To get from Fazendinha to Ipanema nowadays, you need about 40 minutes. Before, you needed about 2.5 hours. So you save time, 2 hours, both ways, every day. Anyone who lives in Fazendinha and works in Ipanema saves 4 hours a day. That's a lot of time you can save.
The Complexo do Alemão was long considered one of Rio's most dangerous slums. At the end of 2010, the military moved in and ejected drug dealers and other criminals from the neighborhood. The area is now a shining example of what can be achieved when people help themselves. In Brazil, it's often the women who fight hardest for change. For Nilceia Rocha, the cable car is a dream come true.
It's the best thing to happen to this community. We can't quite believe it. Once there was only trash, ditches full of water and dirty children here. These people now have apartments that give them a bit of dignity. And our district of Morro do Adeus has become a symbol of honor and tourism in the region.
It's really moving. For me, it's a victory, and it's a great blessing that I'm able to experience this here, because you never know what tomorrow brings.
Today, Iracema Gonçalves is visiting her grandson and great-grandson. Bruno Itan is joining them. He's only 22 years old, but has already established himself as the neighborhood's foremost photographer. His photos depict life here as it really is, and that's what sets them apart.
I was inspired to take photos by the community itself. The Complexo do Alemão is really stunning. It's magical. I've always taken photographs here, even before, when drug dealing was rampant, and afterwards. I grew up here, right in the center. The community here is incredible. They're really nice people, and their stories are beautiful.
No other slum in Rio has gone through such a dramatic transformation as the Complexo do Alemão.
The special thing here is the happiness of the residents and, of course, the cable car, which has now become the symbol of the Complexo do Alemão. I don't think there's anything else like this in the whole country. It's a really good thing.
Back in Stuttgart, the Brazilian delegation is getting a guided tour of the Mercedes-Benz Museum. Some 1,500 cars, spread over 16,000 square meters, trace the history of the automobile. Lincoln Paiva is president of the traffic consultancy firm Green Mobility.
Brazil's gross domestic product is growing by 7 to 8%. That's why there's such a big demand for transport here. A problem that we have in Brazil is that we don't do anything to manage our transport. What we're doing here in Germany is trying to understand how Germany plans, how it manages to sell so many cars and still keep its transport under control.
Sao Paulo is Brazil's biggest and most congested city. 11 million people live in the downtown area alone, and they own 7 million cars. Right next to the cathedral is the Estação Sé metro station. 800,000 people use the red metro line every day. It's the busiest in Brazil and always overcrowded. Corinthians Itaquera is the last stop, the place where the new World Cup stadium is to be built. The line will ferry fans to and from the games there, if the stadium is ever built.
A lot needs to be done to improve the situation. Sao Paulo's traffic system is very bad. People see the metro as a flagship project in Sao Paulo, but you can see how overcrowded it is, and it's not even rush hour. We need more investment. The metro has to be expanded, more bus lanes have to be built, and cars need to stay off the roads. Public transport has to be improved. In Brazil, it's expensive, bad, and always overcrowded. It seems to be doing its best to lose the trust of the people.
The Sao Paulo metro is 60 kilometers long. That's not enough, but no one knows which line should be expanded. The city also doesn't have a stadium ready to host a World Cup game. Should an existing stadium be enlarged, or is it better to start from scratch? No one knows. What they do know is where a new stadium could be built. Here, in the middle of nowhere, at the Itaquera terminus. At the moment, the site is dangerous, but big things are planned here. Next door, a new university is already being built. German company Siemens is installing new trains on the line. The trains and their tracks have all been checked by Germany's safety organization TÜV. On the yellow metro line, only modern trains are in service. They're seen as a big improvement.
The first important thing to say about this line is that it's driverless. It doesn't need a driver. The system is operated completely by computer and other electronic systems. That's the biggest difference with this line. There are also other differences, such as an end-to-end aisle, as you can see here. Also, the doors on the station open simultaneously with the train doors for safety reasons.
This is the Hotel Unique in Pinheiros. Outside, Lincoln Paiva and his co-worker João Amaral have found a novel way around São Paulo's never-ending traffic jams. They've come up with something never seen before in Brazil, a sightseeing tour by bicycle. Today's tour will last 2 hours and take these sightseers through the Vila Madalena, Sao Paulo's artistic and bohemian quarter. The group's first stop is the Museu Brasileiro da Escultura, an open-air museum showcasing alternative and contemporary art. The museum has no doors, so there's time for a quick look around. With much more to see, the group sets off for the next stop on their tour. A well-hidden attraction in Sao Paulo is the Beco Sem Saída, a dead-end street adorned with graffiti. There are others like it dotted around the city. The tour guide says the best way to see them is by bicycle.
If you don't have a life or a routine where you use the car every day and you stay at home, of course you get a lot of weight. And people say, well, instead of using the bicycle to lose that weight, they keep on keeping their routine on the car as to gain even more weight. So of course you always have to begin, and it's always going to be tougher in the beginning, but then you're going to see the results. We bring it here especially to show the culture of the street art and show one of the best characteristics here in Vila Madalena, which is that some hidden places in São Paulo that people normally don't know, and that they don't even have an idea that this place exists.
And if you don't follow you have to control.
What makes the Vila Madalena so special is that it grew naturally, unlike other towns and cities in Brazil. There are a lot of small, unique shops here. Shops like this one. Inside it's like taking a trip back in time to the 1950s. It's another stop on the tour that Lincoln Paiva is proud of.
At first, the idea had nothing to do with the World Cup. The idea was to create a sustainable means of transport for Sao Paulo and for other cities in general. We wanted to offer an alternative so that people use their cars less. But we also want to use the World Cup and the Olympic Games, just as other cities across the world have used them, to improve our transportation network. Germany is a good example of that.
The tour rounds off with a visit to a tea house. It's a great place for tea connoisseurs. There are more than 36 different blends on offer here, all of them grown organically. It's the perfect end to a sportier kind of tour. In Pacaembu Stadium, the fans of the Corinthians Paulista Football Club are warming up for their showdown with arch-rival São Caetano. Brazilian football fans are unrivaled in their love and passion for the game, but that can sometimes make them difficult to control. The stadium here dates back to 1938 and is a long way off the stringent standards required to host a World Cup game. But this is where the tournament's opening match will be kicking off, so the Pacaembu Stadium will have to be completely renovated. That's as long as authorities don't decide on a new stadium instead. Football fans here don't think the tournament will be a success.
I'm the kind of guy who believes in many things, but I doubt we'll be able to stage a World Cup on a par with the one in Germany. Germany is a first world country and everything there was 100%. Safety, transport, everything. Every stadium could be reached with the metro. I look around here and think we can't have the World Cup here when I consider what I saw in Germany.
Look, at least for us here in Brazil, football is everything. Football is love, it's happiness, it's religion. Football makes football fans happy.
Over 1,000 kilometers to the southwest in Porto Alegre, two teams are battling it out in a penalty shootout. The league title is at stake, and it's Brazilians High Flyers Internacional who take the glory. Patrick Dauda reflects on his time in Brazil.
I really liked Brazil. There's just a great atmosphere here. People have lots of enthusiasm, and I've already seen some of that. They're motivated, and I think they'll manage to get everything ready in time for the World Cup. There are still a couple of technical things left to do, but I'm sure they'll manage everything. In any case, it's a great country with great people, and I really enjoyed it.